At just 16, I was super promiscuous and loved to show my body off. Men were always all over me, thinking I was much older. And I loved the attention, the validation. I felt beautiful. I felt wanted, desired, needed, and in some instances, loved. So I became addicted to it, addicted to flirting with older guys or getting catcalled when walking down the street. I'd give my number out on occasion, but I never let it escalate to anything sexual or inappropriate because I knew I would get them in trouble. I mean, I was only 16 and they all thought I was older. But one day I took it way too far. I met this 40-year-old guy at the gym and he had approached me. He didn't ask for my number or anything, just told me I had a beautiful smile and that he'd love to know my name. I flirted back, like I always did, and gave my number to him. Why? Because he didn't ask me, so I assumed it was safe. It was my way of flirting, I guess. I had no intentions of actually texting him back. I knew he was much older and it was wrong. But later that day, I found myself thinking about him like crazy. I was so drawn to him. I felt this natural connection and it was so incredibly strong. So I texted him. I told myself that I wouldn't let it get too far, but I couldn't stop. Texts turned to short phone calls. Short phone calls turned to 5-hour phone calls at night. Next thing I knew, we were hanging out at the gym together and he was inviting me over. I hesitated, but eventually went over to his house. The first time, we just talked for a bit. Nothing sexual, nothing inappropriate. He never pressured me, never even showed intentions of wanting or needing sex from me. But he told me something quite serious. He told me that he was dying of cancer, a brain tumor, and that he didn't have a whole lot of time left. This hurt me so damn bad. I was crushed, broken-hearted. I met this guy who treated me like a queen and didn't even want sex from me. Sure, he was a lot older, but little 16-year-old me thought of it as a fantasy come to life. But then, all of a sudden, he's going to die? So a few days later, it was me who found myself desperately wanting him to take my virginity. I thought that if I didn't have sex with him now or sometime soon, I may never get that chance again. I mean, he's dying, right? And I told myself that it was a one-time thing. I'll be super careful about it so no one gets in trouble. I'll sneak out, go to his house, and everything will be fine. So that's exactly what I did. Snuck out of my house, wearing lingerie under a large t-shirt, and drove to his house. I told him right then and there that I wanted him to take my virginity. He even asked if I was sure about it, and I said yes. He was dying, so I felt bad. And plus, what a fucking story to tell, right? I thought about being an adult woman, married with kids, secretly thinking about the fantasy I once lived out, with a man who was dying. To little 16-year-old me, that sounded like a story filled with passion, excitement, and crazy, risky behavior. So I was sure it's what I wanted. So he took my virginity. He was gentle and kind. And, if it's safe to say, it was overall amazing sex. But that's not the point of this. The point is, he wasn't dying. He had no brain tumor. He didn't think I was older. He knew I was 16. Almost from the start, he found my Facebook, as I later found out. This was not a fantasy or a story to tell. This was rape. It wasn't the typical grabbed in a dark alley and violently forced type of rape. It was quite normal. Guy meets girl. Guy thinks girl is pretty, gets to know her. Invites her to his place, they both consent to have sex. And boom, they have sex. Except this time, it came with a little twist. He was manipulative. He knew everything I wanted to hear. He knew what I wanted. He knew I was a vulnerable, insecure 16-year-old girl, just trying to understand what love meant. At 16, I thought love was just being beautiful enough for guys to want me. And he knew this. He knew I was a promiscuous teenage girl who would fall right into his little trap. He took advantage of me. Was it wrong of me to flirt with older guys when I was only 16? Absolutely. It was incredibly dangerous and held the potential to get innocent men in trouble. So do I advise this behavior? Fuck no. But I was 16, and just like all teenagers, I made shitty and poor mistakes. But that's normal. Unfortunately, that's just what teenagers do. But regardless of this, I was taken advantage of. I was raped, and I didn't even know it. When my parents found out and went to the police, everyone said it wasn't my fault. My parents did, the police did, my therapist did. But I didn't believe them. How could it be his fault? He thought I was 18, right? I wanted to have sex, right? I consented, right? This can't be rape, right? So I lived, for many months, feeling guilty, shameful, disgusted with myself, hating myself. It took me a long-ass time to see and understand the truth of what had happened to me. I discovered that he wasn't actually dying. He knew the whole time I was 16, and he manipulated me. And, unfortunately, a situation just like this is happening to another young girl like me somewhere. So the point of this post is to raise awareness. Rape is not always violent, forceful. It's not always easy to see,